All right, so we're here with Dale Martin, and my name is Earl Hickson, and I'm basically interviewing Dale for the sake of a biography. And it's my understanding that this is something that's been there for a while, all right, possibly a book or what have you. So this is quite the beginning of that book, all right? So we've already had one interview sitting out at a restaurant. We've got some good notes here. So what we're doing at this point, we want to bring more details, just brush up some of the detail as this biography is going to go up for the network as well. All right, so how you doing?
Doing fine.
You look fine.
Thank you.
I like your shirt.
Thank you.
So some of the details here, when I was going through your biography, and really just a couple questions I've got them earmarked, going back to even your childhood, all right? I know that this generation will have an interest when it comes to being a Mennonite and some of the differences that's in the Mennonite conference and in the Mennonite church.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to start with basically is your childhood, and I'd like to actually get your date of birth.
10/21/43.
Okay, 10/21. All right. And let's see here. And then another question too. So your grandchildren, what do they call you? Grandpa or Pap? Or
Pap.
Pap. Okay.
Yeah.
Say that's important. All right.
Yeah.
And how about you, Loretta? What do they call you?
Grandma.
Grandma? Okay. Okay. Now, there was another detail, or actually a story that you shared about a large evangelistic tent meeting. I wanted to see just if we could get a few more details. If there's definitely special interest in something like this. And I know, just to refresh, I know you had shared that this tent had the capacity to seat 6,000 people.
Yeah, I think it was 5,000 or 6,000.
Okay. And see, that's something in itself, because Marion, a little town of Marion, and you had a tent like that.
Right.
So I get the question is, do you remember? I know you were just, 10 years old?
Yeah.
But, so do you remember, I mean, who was the evangelist or who the organization?
Yeah, the evangelist was George R. Brunk.
Okay.
He traveled around the country with this tent, had tractor trailers, and hauled the tent and set them up. He was a Mennonite.
And he was a Mennonite,
He was a
right?
Mennonite.
Okay.
And,
Wow.
he was a powerful preacher. I really like to listen to him preach, and he was one of those preachers that in those days they had the old microphones with the big thing on the end.
Yeah.
And I can still see him taking this microphone and he'd lean that thing, and talk into it. And he's very charismatic.
Uh-huh.
And I really enjoyed his preaching. And he went all over the eastern part of the U.S. here, Lancaster, and set up his tent among the Mennonites.
Wow.
And a lot of them came and got saved.
See, all my adult life, I've never heard of such a thing. I didn't know that you would just meet in your houses or in your buildings and what have you, that you were actually doing tent meetings.
Yeah, he was from Virginia.
Okay.
And yeah, he was very successful in that. A lot of people would come to hear him.
Wow. So that was in the 50s.
Yeah, well, 43. Yeah, in the 50s.
So you always remember too that was definitely the era of the tent meetings.
Yeah, it was.
You think of Oral Roberts and all, that was definitely the decade and the season for the tent meetings.
Yeah.
And obviously, thinking about it, that's coming back again.
Yeah.
Because they're such a tool when it comes to evangelism.
That's right. That's true. It is. Yeah.
All right, so that was a couple questions we had there, going into with the childhood there. And let's see here. And then, okay, so also too, now you had shared that you were teaching at a Bible school at 16 years of age. So do you remember the name of the Bible school?
Yeah, well, it was where I attended church. It was Pleasant View Mennonite Church.
Okay.
Our family went to church there from the time I was born. And I grew up in the church. And we had a summer Bible school every year for 2 weeks. And we would invite children from the community to come in to be a part of this Bible school. and it was broken down by age groups. And so they chose me to teach this group of teenagers, 16, 17-year-olds. I think I had about 10 or 12 in the class. And I was definitely in over my head. But they were good kids. I mean, they behaved pretty well. And I got through it. But so I would study through the day, because we lived on a farm, and I took time through the day to study. And then that evening I would teach the class. We had workbooks that they filled out, and those kinds of things.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
What I hear too, that was on-the-job training.
It was. It was the beginning of, I hadn't really done a whole lot of teaching prior to that. And yeah, it was on the job training, no doubt about it.
having no idea, and see, that's those divine setups, if you will. You know, sometimes, I mean, obviously, our Lord is involved in our lives. He's seeing out ahead, and He will put you in certain places and what have you. You know, because He sees that the time, and you know, He's getting you prepared. All right.
Yeah, I don't think I realized it at the time, but I believe the Lord gave me a gifting of teaching, because I can ask questions and of the students and things like that, not just stand up and do a dry thing, but get them engaged in the process as well.
Yeah, and obviously even today, you know, when I'm listening to you teach or what have you, I mean, there is that engagement, right?
Yeah, right.
So that was already happening.
Yeah, it started early on.
So here's now there was another interesting piece here. So you were sent off to a boarding school in Lancaster at one point.
Yeah.
Okay. And how old were you?
I was a junior in high school.
A junior in high school.
I think I've been about 15.
About 15.
16.
All right.
Yeah, it was a church school. It was a Lancaster Mennonite high school. And it wasn't, there was boarding students there, but there was also day students that would come in.
Yeah, but you pretty much stayed there for the whole week except for weekends.
Yeah.
And then that also too, if I remember, this is also how you met your future wife.
Yeah, it
was at the boarding school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she was there. She went all 4 years. I went 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you remember the name of the school?
Lancaster Mennonite High School.
Yes, okay. See, I know the folks will, you know, some of these dates and names, it's like, oh, I remember that, you know.
Yeah.
Forgotten memory.
For some reason, my dad thought I should go there. And
you probably felt that you needed it.
Probably thought I needed it, yeah. But looking back, it was the Lord, because if I wouldn't have went there, it would have not met Loretta.
Oh, there you go. See,
it was all part of the package.
Exactly. It was all part of the plan.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. So that's going back to childhood. Then we're coming into the young adult years. And then you also, in our interview, you had shared that, so at the age of 20, you began teaching Sunday school classes now. And that was also in the church, or the Mennonite church that you were at?
Yeah, actually, we had moved at that time. And my dad was ordained deacon at a church at Shady Pine, at Spring Run, Pennsylvania. And I taught adult Sunday school class there.
Okay. All right.
I remember sitting in our kitchen with Steve was just a baby, and he was with that little seat he had, and he was on the table, and I was sitting there studying my Bible.
Wow. So you already had a baby by
Yeah.
Okay. And that was the Shady, you said Shady Run? Could you?
Shady Pine.
Shady Pine. Okay. All right. See, it's all, again, it's fascinating. All right. When you start to hear the story and the detail of what happened, you know, just that whole journey.
Yeah.
You know, let's see here. What else do I have? And one thing I noticed too with the biography that we have written up so far when it comes to the dates. So in 1969, all right, you're still a young adult, and then the Franklin County Mennonite Conference had approached you and Loretta about starting a new congregation here in Fairview, all right?
Right.
And so you were about 25 years old then?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And, one thing I was in the biography, you just, again, knowing the story, that this was actually the beginnings of where you are now with Life Gate Ministries.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yes.
All right.
And there were two other couples are about the same age that were asked to be a part of that. So there was three couples that came together.
What was you calling that new congregation at that time? Was there a name for it?
Fairview Chapel.
Okay.
Named it after the little town, Fairview Chapel.
Okay. So moving forward here. All right, so another point of interest, okay, coming back to your Mennonite upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we know that you grew up on a dairy farm, and that's obviously a part of your everyday life. I mean, that's regardless of weather, right, in school and all that. And I'm sure of course, your brothers were involved in the work and everything.
Yeah.
So then, now one point. Now this was another interest. So in the Mennonite conference, sort of like at the pinnacle of your life in the Mennonite conference. So you had been appointed to be an overseer of multiple congregations, okay? And then also too, you had shared that you were then appointed as on a general board, or what was that? Some kind of an office or position?
Yeah, the Mennonite denomination had a board that was, I guess it gathered people from all parts of the country and became a part of this board, and they would make certain decisions and talk about issues for the whole denominational church.
Okay.
So each conference had a representative there, and our conference here in Franklin County appointed me to be the representative on that board.
All right. And so what was that like? Was there a name for that office or position? Or?
It was just General Board of the Mennonite Church.
Okay.
I think they've restructured it a little bit now, but I think we would meet 2 or 3 times a year in different places in the country. So I got to travel over the country because we would meet out west, or we'd meet in Canada, we'd meet in Virginia. So they would take it around the country to the different conferences of the church. And so I had an opportunity to travel and to see different parts of the church in different parts of the country.
So it was at a national level?
Yeah, it was at the national level.
Wow.
And we would meet for 3 days, and we would have an agenda, and we would talk about the different issues.
Okay. And then also, too, so this was starting the congregation. That was in 1969.
That's right.
Okay. Now, just to kind of get my facts right, you said you started preaching. Okay, so...
I started preaching in 1979.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, all right?
Yeah.
So you didn't consider yourself a preacher in 1969 then?
No, we had another pastor here.
Okay.
One of the other guys in the 3 couples, he became the pastor for the first 10 years.
Okay.
And then in 1979, I became pastor.
Understood. All right. Okay. I was trying to understand that. Okay. Thank you.